What I see happening here is kind of leadership or culture development by walking around. And I know there's a temptation, I think, to stay.
I know you engage with your people. Can you just walk us through, like in Steve's head, what's engagement look like?
Behind all of this is the word care. It keeps coming up in our conversation.
The most important thing is that they're the most important person at that time. I try to keep good eye contact with them. I listen. They want to be heard. Try not to be distracted on emails or anything else. Phone rings and I let it go.
One way we could just talk about culture is a transfer of energy. We want our team to be energetic. We want them to be engaged. We're talking about the word care. And I think that is such a powerful word when it comes to culture.
Would you literally pour yourself into people? Not only will they pour yourself back, right? In other words, they'll pour right back at you, but they take that out into the field and they pour that into their customers.
I always felt that, leading by example, showing up means a lot more to people than dictating to them what you want them to do.
These conversations so far are really, really good. They're tight. Everyone we talk to is bringing out a different aspect of culture.
Welcome to the Culture from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. In a business world where employees and customers crave authenticity and trust, hosts Larry Levine and Darrell are on a mission to find and showcase heart-centered executives and the companies they lead. You are about to hear an inspiring conversation with a visionary leader that's bringing heart into the workplace, empowering employees, serving their clients, and uplifting communities, all to create true success. This is Culture from the Heart. The movement starts here. Let's begin.
Welcome to Culture from the Heart. I'm your co-host, Darrell, here today with Larry Levine, and we're joined by Steve Preston. He's the president of Performance Food Service, Fairfield, Ohio, a leading food distribution company delivering high-quality products, innovative solutions, and exceptional service to restaurants, healthcare facilities, schools, and all kinds of food service operations. Steve, welcome to Culture from the Heart. It's great to have you here.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Hey, by the way, Darrell, we're in for a treat. We're in for a treat with
no
Steve
question about that. You're going to love this conversation. And as we kick it off, Steve, you know the question that every guest on the Culture from the Heart podcast answers, and that is, what does Culture from the Heart mean to you?
Well, culture from the heart can mean a lot of things, but the number one thing it means to me is, how do we engage with our employees and how do we make sure that they understand that we care about them? And what does that look like? To me, it's simple leadership skills as far as listening more than you talk, understand what their priorities are, understand what motivates them, and, arrange the opportunity for them to grow, and making sure that they understand that we do care about their success and their growth over long term. And that's how we continue to grow as a company. As we continue to grow our business, we're always looking to develop new leaders, new associates to their next goals and help support them. And to me, you can't do that if you really don't have a genuine feel and care about what's going on with your employees.
Oh, this is so good. And I know we're going to unpack care, and y'all see Steve's wearing it proudly on his shirt, care. But I want to go back to a word you used. It starts with the E, it's engagement. And I know you engage with your people, but can you just walk us through, like in Steve's head, what's engagement look like? When you're engaging with somebody, walk us through what's really true engagement. What's that all about?
True engagement, Larry, is really focusing on the associate, that they're the most important person. So if I'm having a one-on-one meeting or if I'm in a group session, it's going to be a little bit different when I engage with them. But showing up pre-shifts, at their startup meetings, getting their feedback, talking to them about the business and group settings, means a lot to the associates. They really want to know where we're at, what we're working on, and what they can do to improve. But when I'm working with people individually, what I found that the most important thing is that they're the most important person at that time. I try to keep good eye contact with them. I listen. They want to be heard. Try not to be distracted on emails or anything else. Phone rings, I let it go. To me, it's really showing that person that this conversation is important to me and to them. And, it's a better way to do that than to engage with that person and give them your undivided attention for that period of time.
Steve, as you're sharing this, I'm thinking back to business school. I think it was Peter Drucker that coined the term management by walking around. What I see happening here is kind of leadership or culture development by walking around. And I know, there's a temptation, I think, to stay sequestered in the executive suite, in the office, and all of that. I just got to say hats off for going out and truly engaging with your people as a leader. I'm curious, what inspired you to make culture such a priority in your leadership style?
Well, as you come up in the organization, you learn a lot from great bosses, and you learn sometimes more from not so great bosses. And so I always felt that leading by example, showing up, means a lot more to people than dictating to them what you want them to do. Stay in their positions. If it's getting on a truck and riding with a driver for the day, building those relationships with them, finding out what's important to them, what we can improve on, well worth the investment time. It's easy for us to stay here in the back and say this needs to be done and that needs to be done, but we really need to understand what are the obstacles that our associates run into. What's holding them back from breakout performance? Are we doing the right amount of training? We set them up to be successful. So I like to walk, as you say, manage by walking around. It's to see them in action, one, and then two, get to know them personally too. Especially on Mondays, I'll do the rounds, and they've got activities with their children. We talk about the weather, the snowstorm, or whatever it was. It just kind of sets your leadership aside that you do generally care how things are going for them outside of work. And that's important. And as I was up and coming, I had a lot of bosses that didn't really care about that. And I found myself not as motivated as I had other great bosses that really were generally cared about me, just not at work, but also outside of work. Try to take that leadership, and I think people respect you more when you show them that care. And then you go out of their way to also understand what they do every single day.
Hey, you know what I like about this, and I've always said this, Steve, is when you pour into people, when you literally pour yourself into people, not only will they pour yourself back, right? In other words, they'll pour right back at you, but they take that out into the field and they pour that into their customers. And it all starts from the top it's all about giving a rip. We've used this at Selling from the Heart. We're going to use it here in Culture from the Heart. It's all about giving a rip about your people. I applaud you for this. I really do.
Well, Larry, I learned a long time ago, if your employees are happy at what they do, that's going to spill over to the customers, right? If our customers feel energized and important or involved and they know they're making a difference, the customers are going to feel that. And the same thing with our sales reps. If they get treated with respect in here and it's vice versa throughout the whole company, they're certainly going to pour those type of values when they're dealing with customers.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I'm just thinking one way we could just talk about culture is a transfer of energy. And, we want our team to be energetic. We want them to be engaged. If we want our team to be engaged, boy, it sure makes sense that we engage with them, right? And that is so simple, but I love all of it. And behind all of this is the word care. It keeps coming up in our conversation. And what I'm so excited for our listeners to hear is how you have taken the word care and turned that into an acronym that guides the culture of the organization. So we're going to take a brief break to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, Steve is going to unpack the word care and how that's impacting the culture at Performance Food Service in Fairfield, Ohio. Let's be honest, finding the right people and building the right culture, that's the holy grail for every leader.
That's why we recommend Titus Talent, because they don't just fill seats, they help you build teams that thrive.
With their partnership plans, you get more than just hiring help. You get a committed team by your side that helps you attract top performers and retain them.
They bring strategy, data, and a human touch to talent optimization. No guesswork, just results.
So if you're ready to invest in your people and create a culture where everyone wins, head over to culturefromtheheart.com/talent to learn more.
That's culturefromtheheart.com/talent. Your culture is your competitive advantage. Design it with Titus Talent.
Thank you for listening to that quick break. Let's get back to the heart of this discussion. We've got Steve Preston in the studio, president of Performance Food Services in Fairfield, Ohio. And Steve, right before the break, we were talking about the word care. And I think that is such a powerful word when it comes to culture. But you've kind of taken this to the next level at your company. Unpack for all of us what the letters of the word care stand for and how that's rolling out inside your organization.
Yeah, thank you, Darrell. Yes. So one of the things when I arrived here was trying to understand what do we stand for? What's our legacy? What's our mantra? Right? How do we want to treat each other? How do we want to treat our customers, our suppliers, et cetera? So we started down this path of trying to figure out what that would be. And over numerous meetings, different mantras came up, but the word care kept popping up in regular meetings. And I would hear the word used in a very positive manner. And then I also would sometimes hear it in a not so positive manner, i.e., this person really cared about this. They went above and beyond. They did something extra for our customer. Or we would hear, well, maybe they don't care as much as they should. And it started registering with me that this word care we use a lot, but what does it mean? How do we break it down and really live it in the values? So we spend many, many hours breaking it down, and there's numerous things you could come up with. But what really worked for us was four things of care, and that's communicate, awareness, responsibility, and energy. And communication, and we all know it's without it, you have no relationship. And how we communicate with each other internally, how we communicate externally, how do we communicate bad news? How do we communicate good news? And there's lots of different ways to communicate. And there's magical phrases that I'll give you an example of a couple things that really came to mind that we use as a team, and you'll hear it if you're in the building. And it's the kindness words, or I call magic phrases. And it's simple as, it was my pleasure. If somebody gives you a compliment, a lot of times in this world we hear, well, no problem. Well, of course, we know it's not a problem, right? Well, why are we saying no problem, right? And it's kind of a negative in a way, but it's used in a language, and not as a bad word, but hey, no problem, I'm happy to do it. But how about if we just switch that up and say it was my pleasure to provide that information for you? That is a game changer. And I've had people look at me kind of weird when I say that for the first time to them. And then they start to smile and they start to get it, because it's not just about at work, but if you can use these type of thoughts in your home life, in your personal life, it also registers there. It makes a big difference. Feedback is a blessing. And a lot of times people shy away from candid feedback on results, where I say, look, at feedback is a privilege. We need to take an open mind to it. And when something comes where we've either made a mistake or there's a better opportunity to improve on something, when somebody brings you that information and they're trying to give you that coaching, human nature, a lot of times people want to get negative, right? Defensive, I should say. Let's not get defensive. Let's thank them for bringing it to our attention. Because you know what? Now I can become a better leader, or I can fix this problem or this opportunity. If you didn't bring it to my attention, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So little words like that and how we communicate day in and day out makes a difference of how people feel when they come to work. Awareness to me is really just understanding a lot of different things of what are your goals, what are your priorities, what are your strengths, and what do you need in coaching, what do you need in training? Self-awareness, I call that. And Larry would say this, we're always growing. We're always trying to aspire to learn something new. Are you aware of what those opportunities are for you, and how can you grow? Responsibility, the simple thing to sum that up, do the right thing when nobody else is watching. Right? We all want to be responsible. But really the team, really the employees, when they're doing the right thing, when nobody's supervising them, that's when you know you've arrived. So we talked a lot about that, right? Be responsible to your numbers, be responsible, be competitive, want to know where you stand. And then energy, I look at energy, it's very contagious, positively and negatively, right? If you watch winning teams in any sports, you watch their energy level and their body language and how they expect to win. You can see it in their faces. And then if you fast forward to a losing team, you'll see the negativity, the body language, the, oh my goodness, or here we go again. That's also contagious. So if you have a workforce that's going to talk about all the problems, it's going to start to bring down the culture of all of the players. So let's focus on what's positive. Let's focus on what we can control. And let's bring positive attitude. We can choose every day our attitude, right? That's one thing that's free. And we all have bad days, but bring a positive energy. Other people will respond to that, and they will inspire to do better when you're using a positive approach when you're dealing with people. So that's a quick summary of it, but it's something that we've rolled out in apparel. We choose a letter each month, and we catch our people using these things live. So one of the challenges that I always want to see our leaders is every month, you should have a logbook. Let's tell me how you caught your people caring. Somebody that did great communication, great awareness, showed responsibility above and beyond maybe their role, or is energizing other people to help push them to be successful. So we try to capture those little nuggets and then recognize those people on a regular basis.
Oh, this is so good. But I got a question for you. I'm just curious. As you were rolling this out in the very beginning, I'm sure there are some people in the back of the room, arms folded, things like that, going, I've heard that one before. So how did you, as a leader inside Performance Food Service in Fairfield, how did you start to overcome some of this to break it all down? Because I know now people are on board with care. But what was it like in the very beginning?
Yeah, it was, you're right. There's the on the fence folks, right? I'll kind of wait and see. You got your cheerleaders, and then you've got some people that won't work, or I'm not quite sure. And so for me, it's redundancy. A lot of our associates in the past will say, well, that was flavor of the month. Just wait, it'll pause, it'll go away. I used to hear a lot of that. But in this situation, it's every meeting, every time we're together, we're talking about care and what it means. And we don't try to make it overwhelming. We just try to share little things in our dialogue that catches somebody doing something right among this area. So it's a redundancy thing that we continue to work on. And then we came up with the idea of the apparel, and you'll see our drivers with these. We also have the hats. And so when we're handing these out, I always say to them, remember, wear this, okay, and understand what it stands for. Walk the talk. Okay, don't just walk into a customer with a care thing on and don't generally care. And I hope that customers will ask, hey, what does that mean? And so we just give our guys little nuggets. So you don't have to memorize the whole thing, but just know one or two things that's important to you on the care, and it'll continue to thrive. So it's something you got to stay after. It's got to be important to us every single day. And then again, trying to reward the right behavior with apparel, cups, those type of things. We got people walking around with care cups now, and not only we're green, we're taking out the waste, and we got the cups, and everybody's walking around with care. So it's just the little things. Right? I go, hey, we're responsible, but at the same time, we're walking around with it. So it's
I love it.
Getting becomes a habit per se. But it does take time. It's we're not there yet. It's a journey. We got a lot of new associates. The other thing that we figured out is as new associates come on, I meet with them one-on-one, or as a group as the new associates, and I walk them through care. That way they hear it directly from me and understand it even before they start to get into the role. So that's another nugget. We figured out that, hey, let's not wait until we have another town hall. Let's make sure when they're walking in the door, they understand exactly the expectations of care.
I love it. I love it. And I like the apparel, by the way. It looks fantastic. If you're listening on audio, you just got to subscribe on YouTube to Culture from the Heart, and you can see what's going on here. But I think it's so cool because normally someone that's wearing a company shirt is going to have the logo on their chest, but you actually have the letters care on your chest. I see the logo on your arm, so you're branded. It's good. But I think
I still got to.
There you go. That's right. I think that's fantastic.
Center stage, though.
That's right. But everywhere you walk in, people are going to ask about what does that mean, and and you're being benchmarked against that. You mentioned that you have your town halls where you celebrate each month a different letter in the CARE acronym. I'm wondering if you could share with us a story or two about how you recognize someone and what that looked like here in maybe one of your recent town halls.
Yeah, absolutely. Day shift was a big one around awareness, and we've been really working hard to reduce damages in our shrink. And as we know, there's 24/7. There's forks in and out, a very busy warehouse. And we had an individual that went outside of their normal realm. They work in dry, but they were helping another associate in the cooler, and they found a pallet that was damaged. And so they took it upon themselves to bring it to the attention of the supervisors, even though it's not generally their area. That was a product that we were able to recoup and probably saved us about $2,000 or $3,000 if we wouldn't have brought that to our attention, because those boxes would have continued to get crushed. And at some point, they would have been just a complete write-off and a loss. So that's the kind of thing that we were trying to find, just one little nugget here and there where we catch somebody doing right. And again, that's the operations guys doing that, document it, and celebrate those wins.
Beautiful.
Hey, Darrell, you know what I just saw real quick? Here's the next realm on care. It's more gear for you, Steve Preston. It just put OUT hyphen out care. How do you like that?
Out care. All right, there you go. That's the next phase, right?
There you go.
I love how this is so practical. Sometimes you think about culture and it gets just kind of theoretical, but you've made this super, super practical. So I'm looking forward to our next segment because I want to dive into, what you would say to other people who are curious about, okay, how could I implement something like this in my organization? So let's do that. We're going to hear a quick word from our sponsors. And when we come back, Steve's going to share some practical advice for other leaders on how you might implement something like this in your organization.
If you were buying a company, you wouldn't just glance at the website and say, looks good, let's buy it. You'd do your due diligence. You'd review the books, check the leadership, dig into performance history.
Exactly. You never spend millions on a company without knowing what you're getting. Yet, most CEOs hire salespeople with nothing more than a resume and a gut feeling.
That's why we recommend Sales Index Unlimited Candidate Assessments. It's like due diligence for your sales hires. Each sales candidate is evaluated across 21 core sales competencies because a crucial role like sales requires more than a personality profile. Sales Index compares candidates against a database of 2.5 million salespeople. You'll know exactly who has the drive, the grit, and the skills to perform before you bring them on board.
Because in sales, a bad hire doesn't just cost salary. It costs momentum, margin, and morale.
For just $299 a month, you can protect your growth engine and make every sales hire a smart investment.
Do your due diligence before your next hire.
Go to unlimited.salesindex.ai. That's unlimited.salesindex.ai and hire with confidence.
And we're back with Steve Preston. Let's dive into this concept of culture and a caring culture. And Steve, I love the stories you shared in the last segment of how this rolled out inside your company. And I'm curious, other leaders are listening in thinking things like, how could we do something like this in our organization? How could this roll out? So what would you say to other leaders who are inspired by the story of what's going on at PFS Fairfield and thinking, I wonder if we could do something like this in our company?
Yeah, thanks, Darrell. I would recommend first that it's understand from your whole leadership team what differentiates or what you want to differentiate yourself. It's so competitive out there, right? Especially in food distribution. At the end of the day, what's going to be your competitive advantage? And to me, I went right to culture, but to develop it, it was very important to me that it wasn't my idea because I didn't know what we were going to come up with. All I know is I wanted to get feedback from my senior leadership team on what's important to them. What are they proud of? What motivates them in the past and in the future? And then we started to just plot out what those things were. And, again, then you'll start to just see little things will start to come to life as you'll start to feel like, hey, that word or this symbol means a lot to us, right? We can resonate with this. And that's how we started building it. It took multiple sessions, but the key to this was that my team was part of it. And we came to the solution of care together. We also were able to get some feedback from our sales leadership, other people internally, where we would just ask questions. When we started to come together and we started feeling, hey, this is the way we want to go, we wanted to test that and make sure that it was relevant for all associates. So we got a lot of good feedback and what they would think of this and that. And that's how it came together. So when we did roll it out, we're able to talk about, this isn't a Steve Preston thing, right? This is our company. This is what we stand for. This is how we're going to go to market, internally and externally with our folks. And it's something that we made a commitment together that it's not going to be just roll it out and then move on, right? It has to be something that we're going to dedicate ourselves to and hold ourselves accountable to practicing what we put together. So in a nutshell, I would say, opinions matter. As much feedback as you can get, brainstorming on what you want to stand for and what that mantra can be for you. And you get a lot of great input from your team, and they feel like, hey, this is mine, right? We all own it, and we're all kind of walking in the same line together. So that would be my recommendation.
I'm sitting here listening to what Steve was saying, and I had flashbacks, Steve, and this goes back. This is a shout out to Todd Bierling, and Todd's the CEO of EnviroMasters. And he said this, and he said it so eloquently. He goes, the person in the chair is not the person with all the answers. And he leaned into his leadership team to find some of those answers. So I applaud you, because you said Steve Preston's not the one with all the answers. You got your leadership team together to come up with all of this. So, hats off to you. But it was just a stroll down memory lane, Darrell. Thank you for allowing me to go take a stroll.
Well, we also have a saying, we don't close too many new accounts or new customers sitting in our office. Don't remember getting any big contracts sitting in here looking at email. So, we got to be out supporting the sales and working together as a team. And that's really what CARE is all about.
Yeah, I think that's great. You mentioned earlier in the last segment about how, it's so common inside companies as leaders, we come up with new ideas and we're leaders. We come up with ideas, we roll them out, and everyone starts rolling their eyes, and thinking inside or maybe out loud, this too shall pass. But you have, and we've witnessed this, you've taken this CARE concept and it has become part of the culture. I can tell just from our interactions with you and people in your company that this is more than a t-shirt that people wear. So I would love it if you could give us some more insight, and our listeners some more insight into how you keep something like this from being seen as the flavor of the month. Oh, Steve went to a meeting. Steve read a book. Steve had some bad Chinese food, and all of a sudden we're doing, couldn't sleep, and we're doing something new. How do you navigate that inside the organization? Because people are thinking it, right?
Yeah, I think we mentioned that hey, I've seen this come and go, and it will pass, and there's some of that, but how do you keep it alive? One, you walk the talk, right? And I love, you guys probably get tired. I know Larry probably gets tired every time we have a conversation or we're working on improving our sales organization. He's got to look at the same damn thing. He probably thinks, you wear that same shirt every day?
Steve just washes it every day.
10 of them though. Okay. My wardrobe.
That's good to know.
And so, yeah, but it is, there's no magic here. Besides just living it every day. And what I do is, the way I've been able to keep it alive is that I inspect what I expect. And I ask my leaders that every month, I want to see what you've learned from the past month around these values, right? And how are we recognizing the behavior that we want? It's easy in our business. When we're having service issues or things aren't going right, is to focus on everything that's going wrong. And in food distribution, there's errors. I mean, there's errors per 1,000 that are acceptable. There's errors per 1,000 that aren't, but there's errors, and it's not a perfect science. So that's one of the challenges that we're really trying to work on going forward is let's spend as much time on the things that we're doing right as we are on the things that we need to improve on. Because we need to celebrate more. We were just talking about this. We were looking at our service excellence numbers, and they've got significantly better. One of the better improvements in the company over the last 3 months. And we need to celebrate that. We still got a long ways to go because we aspire to be top 10. But at some point, you got to take a little break and recognize that we've come a long way. So same thing with care. We continuously to try to, focus on a different letter. So it's just not the care in general. It's just really talk about responsibility. Let's focus on that. And then it pretty much now starts to become our regular language. We still got opportunities with our magical phrases, but it is. And it's one of those things where you have to be committed from the top down that it's going to be important today and it's going to be important in 6 months from now. Not easy to do, but we work on it every day.
Oh, this is so good. So, okay, Steve, you're in the hot seat on this one because I'm pulling a question out of right field on this one, but I know Steve Preston can handle it. You're not in the room. Everybody else is in the room at PFS Fairfield, from your director of sales all the way down to your district sales managers, your AMs, ops, everyone's sitting in the room but Steve Preston. What words would these people be talking about when it comes to Steve Preston? What would you hope they would be saying? You're not in there. I'm throwing you on the hot seat because I know you can handle it.
Yeah,
but you develop this culture. Now you're not in the room. What are they saying about Steve Preston?
I think they generally would say that Steve's the type of guy that puts others before him. My main objective here is if I help every one of my associates, my staff, their teams meet their goals, I'm going to meet mine. No different than a customer. We go out and, we need to understand what keeps them up at night. What are their business needs and how can we partner with them to achieve those goals? If we achieve their goals, you're automatically going to benefit from it because the trust is going to go up and they're going to want to give you more business. And I think they would say that I generally have their backs. I want to support them in their development. I'm also a guy that'll jump in the car or jump on a truck and very engaged and involved. And I think they would also say that that's different. Some would say I'm too involved, but I would beg to differ that knowing what's going on in the warehouse, what's going on in the field, how our customers really feel is important. And sometimes I don't want to be told that. I want to see it myself. And I mean, that to me is, I think those words, they probably would say I'm a little demanding as well. But can't be perfect at everything. Right?
I love it. Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing all of this today on behalf of our listeners. You can tell that you are truly someone who's built a culture from the heart, and it's been like a masterclass here today having this conversation. So thank you, and we're cheering you on.
No, it's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We'll talk to you soon. Hey, what
a great conversation.
I mean, this was a great conversation, and the whole acronym is fitting. Hey, by the way, Darrell, I have a care shirt. I'm just letting you know.
I'm a little jealous, Larry. I'm a little jealous.
I think I might know where I can get you one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as simple as that is, the shirts, every time I've seen Steve, he's got that shirt on. It's consistent. That he's, as he's out with his people in the field or in the warehouse, as he talked about, that this is a topic of conversation all the time. And so I think what he has built and what is being built inside the company by really rallying around these core values is just brilliant and simple and profound at the same time. And I've seen the effects of it. I think what Steve's come up with is incredible.
Absolutely. And here's what I'd ask everyone to think about. Take our conversation today and just take the acronym CARE, break that down inside your organization. What does that really mean? And implement it. Bring your leadership team together. Talk about it. What do we stand for? Because we do know this, Darrell. These small little changes that you can make inside your company create massive ripples that cascade out out into the marketplace that affect how you interact with your customers.
And by the way, if you're listening and you go, what was CARE again? The good news is our team puts together leader guides on every episode of the podcast. So you'll find it in the show notes right below your podcast listening device. Just scroll down. It'll take you to culturefromtheheart.com, and you can download leader guides and you'll get the notes from this episode, and you can get the notes from every episode. We're committed here at Culture from the Heart to finding and featuring heart-centered cultures and their leaders all over the country. If you know someone who'd be a good fit, we'd love to hear from you. Go to Culture from the Heart, nominate them. Thank you for joining us today on Culture from the Heart. Until next time, lead with your heart and watch your culture thrive.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to discover heart-centered leaders shaping extraordinary company cultures. To access a leader guide with notes from this week's episode, simply click the link in the show notes or visit us at www.culturefromtheheart.com. Do you know a CEO who's built a culture from the heart? We'd love to hear their story. Head over to www.culturefromtheheart.com and click the Nominate Your CEO button. Until next time, remember, great cultures start with the heart.